What's going on, guys? I am Keydrin Franklin with 924 Photography.
And I'm Stevie D.
That's it?
Okay.
This is Stevie D. So we are in his studio. We're going to be reviewing the red Komodo 6K and the FX6. These cameras, some may say are different, but they may not be so much different. I want you to stay tuned, whereas we're going to have a panel discussion for you all, so you all can make an informed decision on which camera will be best for you.
Stay tuned.
So in terms of portability, which one of these cameras is right for the consumer? Stevie, I know you've had the red Komodo for how long?
About a year now.
About a year now. And I've had the FX6 for about 3 to 4 months. For portability, you using the red, how do you feel about it?
So for portability, I really like the small form factor. It's easy to pack away. It's easy to rig up. It's very versatile, where I can go from a gimbal, hand holding, shoulder rig. So that's what I really like about the portability size of the red Komodo.
Stevie let me use the red for about a week, and I have to agree. The portability, the breakdown, I didn't break it down too much. I just left it up because that's how I do all my cameras. I'll just put them in my car and be able to go, because I don't really like breaking the stuff down, but it is not hard. When you let me use it, I thought it was gonna be a learning curve, but it really wasn't, man. It was like, you showed me a few things and I had it in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, so that's another thing I like about the Komodo. With red, the menu system, the user interface is very simple. Even though Keydrin had, just shot with it, he was able to pick it up very quick because of the menu system. So that's one of the things I like. It's not overbearing with things that we don't normally use every day, which is great for a cinema camera, to be able to have the menu options that you typically always use just ready there for you to go.
The portability for the FX6. For the 4 months that I've had it, if you leave it up, it's a great running gun camera, documentary style. I normally don't put mine on a gimbal. I have an FX3 for that, but I have my shotgun mic, I have my Rode mic, so I can go, between the two if I really need to. So we gonna keep that in there. For portability, I'm going to say, if we're talking about a documentary style, I feel like the FX6 is going to be your camera in that. But we'll dive more deep into that in a minute. So ease of use. I know Stevie just touched on it just a little bit, but, like I said, I use the camera, and the ease of use, I give it a 9 out of 10 for sure. When you first got the red camera, how long did it take you to learn how to use the menu system?
Maybe a day.
That's
it didn't take very long. I did watch some videos prior because I was waiting on it to come when the Komodo first.
We always, hey, hold on. How many YouTube videos did you watch before you got that camera when you knew it was in transit?
Countless. I think I watched all you guys' YouTube videos. So
Hey.
all those thumbs up, that's for me.
Hey, and that's crazy. I know people like, hey, in the comments below, I want you to comment below if you are buying any type of product, no matter if it's a C-stand, lights, or whatever, how many YouTube videos is in your queue?
All of them.
All of them. Ease of use for the FX6, Stevie.
Okay, so I've previously used an FX3, and then when you brought your FX6 over, it was a little intimidating. There's a lot of buttons, a lot of knobs, so using a Komodo going to an FX6, I can imagine there's some apprehension on, using it.
Oh, you ain't gonna just get in the FX6 and, you could get in there and start using it, but man, that menu system is very intensive. I ain't gonna even sit there and hold none of y'all up.
Yeah.
As far as like, okay, so let's say the audio. So if you're gonna use the XLR audio on the FX6, you have to make sure that whatever port you put it onto the top handle, and when we speak of the top handle of the FX6, if you take the top handle off, you don't have no audio at all, you just have scratch audio, versus the red Komodo has a 3.5mm jack.
Right, and so depending on the shooter, that can be an advantage or a disadvantage. So if you're looking to do documentary style where you need XLR, the Komodo wouldn't be a good fit because it's only 3.5 and you'll have to use an external recording device. But with the FX6, it's built into the handle, so that's kind of a plus depending on, you know, your style of shooting and what you're shooting.
Okay, so we got, on the red Komodo, we got a 3.5 millimeter jack, right? On the FX6, we have 2 XLRs, we have a top port that you could put another Sony mic on, and we have a 3.5 millimeter jack if you wanted to run your Rhodes. How I run my Rhodes is I have a Deity adapter to go to 3.5 so I can use the XLR port so I can use the dials on the side. But when you get the FX6, when we're talking about audio on the FX6, although you need to find out what type of mic you have. If you have a mic that uses phantom power, you need to put it on 48 volts. Or if you just have a mic that already has a battery, you want to put it on just a regular mic, and then you can use line in if you need to. Along with that, you still have to go into the menu system inside by clicking it one time and telling the FX6 what input you want to put on what channel. Right. So that's really intensive besides just having a 3.5 millimeter jack.
Yeah, and so the Komodo does record externally. So there's 2 options for audio. There's internal mic or external mic, and that's it.
3.5, right?
Yeah, 3.5, yeah.
So, I mean, with that case, I'm going to say the level of what you need to learn as far as using all the mics and all that, you need to watch the YouTube videos. We may put out another one extensive of how to use the microphones. If you want to see that, definitely comment below for us. Again, ease of use goes to the Komodo, but if you're talking about professional audio without you having to use a boom, FX6.
All day.
We're going to talk about versatility right now. How easy is it to use this camera when going off a gimbal to on a gimbal? I know Stevie touched on it briefly at the beginning, but I'm gonna let him start off.
Okay, so for the Komodo, it's relatively easy, but there are some caveats to it. So for instance, I don't use a full cage on my Komodo. I use a sidearm and then the GDU sidearm, which enables me to put a rod on it for follow focus. The only problem is that blocks the 3.5 millimeter.
Boy.
Yeah. Did you have a problem with that when you're using it?
Listen, I pulled out my Deity, it's the D4 Duo, right? And I was like, I thought I was just gonna put it into the 3.5. And I had to message Stevie, I was like, Stevie, how am I supposed to get this on there? He said, oh, just use the red and just take the side handle off and put it on there. So I found that kind of cumbersome, but once you got it in there, if you just leave that on there and just tie it up somewhere, I mean, I guess it'd be fine. Yeah,
it would be fine. So if you're not, for me, when I'm not using audio, my rig is perfect, right? I don't have to take anything off, you know, once I get everything set up. So I like it that way. Like I said, I can go from hand holding with the side handles, put my rod in, follow focus on my gimbal. I can slap it back on shoulder rig and go that way. But if I need to do any other setups, then it becomes a little bit cumbersome because I have to take stuff off in order to make it work.
And for the FX6, I don't take anything off. I use this as a run and gun camera. I'll just hand hold it. The stabilization, when you put it in DaVinci or Premiere, it stabilizes pretty good. So, as the Red does as well. So I just use this as a run and gun camera. I would also use it with the Easy Rig, which makes it for hand holding a lot easier. But yeah, other than that, I think, we're moving right along.
Yeah, pretty versatile.
Well, if we're talking about scratch audio, I know people out there have said that the FX6 scratch audio is trash. Before I asked Stevie about his scratch audio on the Red, which I didn't really use it, for the FX6, when you're using scratch audio, is what it's for scratch audio, or you can actually use it for ambient if you turn it down low enough, or you just have it, you can get ambient sounds and put that track underneath if you want to be real, like utilize that scratch audio. So how is it on the Red?
Yeah, so in the Red, it's not as bad as you're saying with the FX6, but it's not great. But like you said, it's for scratch. If you need to just, capture some type of audio because you're using an external audio device, then perfect. Even right now we have a Deity D3 Pro on it to get scratch audio. If we needed to use the Red audio in a pinch, I think we could, but probably won't be happy with it.
So when you say scratch, so you have another audio source on the side that actually captures scratch in there as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's the same thing with the FX6. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right, so we got setup time, right? If we were to take both of these cameras off and set them up, I'm not gonna do the FX6 because I have the tilted cage on there, but let's go to a B-roll spot of where Stevie is putting this camera together. I'm trying to see if we're gonna speed it up or we're gonna make it real time. Or we don't wanna make this video super long, so let's just go to it.
All right, so this is the Red Komodo. It's a 4x4 cube format. This is pretty much how it looks coming out the box without the side handle and the rib. It's pretty much what you get out the box. It is an RF mount, but it does come with the RF to EF adapter. I'm going to show you exactly how I set it up, how I use it, running gun. So this is the side handle I use. This is a Red proprietary handle. It has the record button at the top, which allows you to trigger the recording from the handle. Without it, you'll have to use the record button on the screen, which if you're in a different position, it's kind of hard to use. So I do appreciate the side handle, and it does rotate forwards and backwards for your holding needs. So I kind of keep mine tucked back a little bit. And in order to get a monitor on, I have to put a small rig NATO rail on it. And this is something I have to do every time I set up this camera in order to use a monitor. And it does take some time to do. Make sure I get it in the right hole. That's what she said. All right, after I get the NATO rail on, I'll typically grab my monitor. I use a Portkeys monitor. But before I do that, here's my top handle. It's a Nissy top handle, NATO. So I'll just slide it on, lock it down. And then I have a Zhiyun quick release on my Portkeys. I'll just push it down and put that on like that. The lens I typically use most of the time on this camera is the 18-35 Sigma. Again, Red does supply the RF to EF adapter, which pretty much stays on the lens. And this is pretty much what it looks like with the monitor and adapter, but we need to power this. So Red does have these BP 955 batteries, which is about 2 hours run time on each battery. They are hot swappable, so it gives you about 3 to 4 hours of run time on this camera. Now, if I need to run a little bit longer or run a heavier lens setup just to balance, I will use the core adapter so that I can add a V-mount battery to it. And it gives me enough power to run this 5-6 hours along with the monitor. But on a typical day, I don't use this setup. I'll just use the BP 955 batteries, which keeps it pretty light, especially with this lens. So after all that, I need to get SDI to the monitor. The Red has a protocol. Matter of fact, all cameras with SDI has this protocol to where you have to make sure that the camera and any accessories is powered up before you actually put the SDI on. If not, you will blow the SDI port. And Red is notorious. This camera is notorious for blowing. So I'll go ahead and power everything up. I'm getting power to the Red. I got power to the monitor. Then I'll go ahead and plug up SDI to the monitor, and then SDI to the Red. And then now I can see everything. This is pretty much set up for the Red. This is pretty much my running gun setup every day, either handheld or on a gimbal. No, I'm sorry, a handheld or on a tripod. When I don't have the gimbal, I typically take the handle off, the monitor off, and I use a lighter lens and a follow focus. So as you can see, the setup time on the Komodo could be very extensive depending on how you have it rigged up. For me, I like to take everything apart at the end of a shoot or at the end of the day, just so it fits really nice in my case. But when I have to put everything together, it does take some time. So if you need to grab a shot real quick, like if you just run up to your shoot or whatever, and you need to grab a shot real quick, the Komodo is not the camera to
I'm
do
already ready. You already missed the shot. They're going to give me the job.
Yeah.
What? Because mine is already ready. I got mine in the car already ready to go. I ain't taking that sucker down. But right now, I just want to tell you about this setup. Now, I know we've already talked about the red, and Stevie showed you how the red and how he has it set up and how long it takes, because he likes to break his down and put it in the bag. For me, I don't like to do that. I like to be run and gun, so I pretty much leave this all up. So at first, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the V-mount off. I'm running the 28-70 by Sigma, and I change different lenses for different things, but you have a top handle here. This FX6 does not have a 3.5mm jack inside, so that means you have to have the top handle on. And the reason why I keep the top handle on and I use this more handheld or with an easy rig is because I have the XLR ports that's going to be here on the side right here. So these XLR ports allow me to put a 3.5mm jack on by just putting it into this port. And then I have an Rode NTG2 shotgun mic is in port 2. Now, you can also put more audio on top of this handle with the Sony version. So the Sony audio, you can put it on there and you can have even more channels. So that's why they consider this a Netflix approved or a true cinema camera in that era. Now, what I did was when I first got it, the body itself weighs next to nothing. I'll put the weight on the screen right now for just the body. It was pretty light. Then I ordered the tilter cage. With the tilter cage, it ended up being $279, which allowed me to have more mounting points on my FX6. And then if you look here on the bottom, the tilter goes on here, and I have a quick release under the bottom for my other tilter mount to clip it on. And then I have these rails, so if I need to do a follow focus. The autofocus in this camera is absolutely amazing. You tap the screen. If you know what you're doing in the autofocus, you can put it on lock on and it'll stay on your subject. If you want it to jump around, you just move that dial. But, and I know I'm jumping around, but now we're gonna go to the back. The batteries that come with the FX6 is a smaller battery. It'll last about an hour and a half, maybe even 2 on it, depending on whatever. But I wanted to run it with my monitor all in one, so I decided to use a V-mount. So when you get the tilted cage, you have to make sure that you get the battery plate too, and they're hard to find. But once you do that, you just put the V-mount on the back here. And then from the V-mount, I have it wired up going all the way here to my Ninja Atmos, and then it'll power this up for a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours. So it makes it so much easier to be run and gun. Another thing I like is on the Sony is when here you got these 2 audio dials here. You can either do it in manual or you can do it in audio. I do it in manual, and then you go into the settings and you can fine tune everything. That's for my NTG2 here and for my Rode. And then if you look here, there is another microphone here for channels 2 and 3, so you can get that scratch audio right here. So you can get scratch audio again with this camera. So that's why this camera is almost probably the best vlogging camera you can buy today. A lot of people may not know what this is, but this little piece right here is for the distance for like focusing. So they'll put like some tape and they'll measure the distance, and then you can be able to dial in your distance here. So that's what that piece is for, if you're wondering. This camera has a built-in ND filter system in it, and it ranges from 1 stop to 7 stops. So that is real cool that they actually put it in here. And what's cool about this camera also, Stevie, let me tell you, it has an auto ND feature. What's that's good about is if you're going in from inside a building to outside, you can put it on that auto feature and it will do it gradually. It's not like an abrupt change, it'll do it gradually, and you're able to move a lot quicker. You got the side handle. Your side handle has a towards and away button here, and all these dials on the FX6 are customizable. I went in here and customized it to how I like it. I shoot this in S-Log3 Cine EI, so I have my exposure index here. You got high, medium, and low, and then I have my ISO, my base ISO right here that I can press quickly to 800 to 12,800. And then you got your S&Q mode, and then these other ones in your display. So that is just the FX6 in a nutshell. Again, I like to always keep it up, just pull it out of the camera. It doesn't take no time to turn on. If I turn my monitor on, the Atmos takes a lot longer to power up than the actual camera. So as soon as I power the camera on, and it's there. That's how quick it is. So you won't really miss a shot waiting for this camera to turn on. You can turn it off if you don't have nothing to shoot, and then if you got some action, allow yourself at least 10 seconds and then you're ready to go start shooting. So let's hop back into where Keydrin and Stevie is on the panel talking about these two cameras. Back to you, Stevie. Now my friend James Stokes, he always takes his down, and so when I saw him putting his together, I'm like, why are these dudes putting these cameras together? Just leave them up, you know? But I mean, like, if I'm traveling, I'll break it all down because you gotta absolutely have to. But around town, if I'm going, man, I want to jump out the car and I want to get busy. Yeah.
But don't use Komodo.
So we're going to jump in Kodax. What Kodak is going to work great with your computer? So we're going to start with the Red. So Stevie.
All right. So Red uses RD3 compressed RAW, which is amazing flexibility.
Okay.
And it also shoots in ProRes HQ if you need that codec as well.
Okay. When I was using it, Red RAW, this was the first time me using Red RAW. The file structure that when I saw it in the thing, you had to, walk me through it. It was pretty simple, especially when you put it in DaVinci. You know, you just put the folders or click on the folders. The only time cumbersome thing that I found that is I had to go grab each one of them and drag it in.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to look at the files on my computer. Is it a special software you can do?
Yeah, so Red has software that is called Cine Pro, I think CineX Pro, where you can actually view the footage on your computer.
Oh, so you got to download that?
Yeah, you got to download that.
Okay, we're going to put that link in the description below because I wasn't able to do it. So my file, I was like, I don't even know what's what. So I just had to go by the date. So I'm glad Stevie had the date correct on the thing so I knew which day that I was actually moving.
Yeah.
The FX6 has MXF files. It will shoot RAW. You have to go through an Atomos, but I hardly ever shoot RAW. MXF is fine for me. I shoot Cine EI. That's for a different thing. If you want to see that video, maybe I'll link this YouTuber's below that he explains Cine EI perfectly. I'm not going to go over it. But as far as the Red files, once you get them in there, I'll tell you my experience with it. So when I had the Red and I put the files in, as soon as I put it in the DaVinci Resolve, the ISO, I was able to change the ISO, I was able to change the white balance. That was absolutely amazing. He had it set up at 6K for me, but he had it as the lowest res. So those files were not even big as my MXF files. So my MXF files were just a little bit bigger than his compressed RAW files. Now those RAW files can get super big, really, really big. But how I saw it, it was nice. The ease of use on the timeline was great for me.
Yeah, so I really like the Red RAW files. That's a lot of flexibility in shooting RAW, even though it's compressed. The file size I find are manageable depending on the project. And just to be able to have that flexibility in post to change the ISO, white balance is amazing. I think that's kind of the advantage with shooting with the Red.
Yeah, for sure, man. Being able to change the ISO after the fact is absolutely amazing. On the FX6, if you're using Cine EI, you have two base ISOs. You have 800 and you have 12,800. I have that set to a custom button function, so I'm able to get to it quick. Another advantage of the FX6, it has built-in ND filters, which are 7 stops.
Yeah.
But I also use a variable ND filter on the front of it because I like to shoot wide open. So sometimes those 7 stops are not enough. So you need that extra. So I run an ND filter on the front and then I will feather it with my ND inside.
Can I just say I'm a little jealous?
Why would you be jealous?
Of the internal NDs.
Hey, I ain't gonna even see a lot. I had to put an ND on a filter on the front, and so I'm so used to using it. It wasn't a big deal. But I'm gonna tell you what separates the FX6 from the Cinema Red camera is the variable ND filter. So if you're going inside your building and coming outside, that auto ND will make a smooth transition in and out, so you don't have to do 2 takes for a shoot.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, for
Come on, Red, holla at your boy.
Woo! What everybody's been waiting on is that image quality. Which one of these cameras are better? You know what I'm saying? I mean, the FX6, you know, or the Red. Which one is better? I mean,
image quality. So we're not very technical, right?
Nope.
A lot of people will pixel peep. Oh, dynamic range has this, dynamic range has that. In the hands of a great shooter and someone who understands post-production, you're not gonna be able to tell. I'm just being honest. You're not gonna be able to tell because if you expose correctly on either camera, the image is beautiful. And if you color grade it the proper way, it's gonna be beautiful. So image quality for me is very subjective to the style or skill of the shooter.
Y'all thought we were gonna say one was better than the other, didn't you? But just being honest, man, like when you get to the higher up cameras, there is a look in those, like, you know, the Red Dragon or the Aria Alexa or the Venice 2, they have a specific look to them. These cameras, they have a look, you know what I'm saying? They're still a cinema camera and they look really good, especially if you know how to grade them. You can make them look cinematic as heck.
Yep, I agree.
So, price point.
All right, so I think both of these cameras start around the same price. I think the Komodo, when it first came out, and still now, is $5,995 just for the brain, and it comes with RF to EF adapter.
Hush your mouth.
That's it. That's it.
Oh boy, 5,000, and the FX6 is $5,999, which I purchased mine from Fort Worth Camera. If you are in the Fort Worth Camera area, you should definitely check them out. Ask for Mackenzie. Any of their staff there will be able to help you out. You can also buy these cameras online from Fort Worth Camera, and they are just, I mean, you can't buy Red from there, but you can buy the Sony brands for now. Now they're going to be having more of a dealer like far as cinema cameras come along, but if you're looking in the market for FX3, FX30, FX6, Fort Worth Camera is your place to go. Yeah. The price again is $5,999, and right out the box you can start using this FX6. It comes with 1 battery. You got a small little monitor on it, and you just got to put your lens on there, and you can literally start using this camera when you get past the menu system.
Can't do that with the Red.
Wait a minute, you can't just take that out of the box and start shooting with it?
I mean, you can if you plug it up to the wall and you have a lens, but there's no monitor. Red doesn't make a monitor for the Komodo, so you have to buy a third-party monitor to use. You have to, if you want to go mobile without being plugged into the wall, you have to buy Red's BP955 batteries or get an adapter that accepts a V-mount. In addition, we use the CFast for Red Media, which is relatively expensive.
Golly.
So yeah, you can't just get it on Monday and start shooting on Monday unless you have all the other things needed to rig the camera up. So that's a big disadvantage.
Cards for that. I run V90 cards in mine. You can do the CF Express Type A cards. They are pretty pricey as well. One thing I want to say between these two cameras, whichever one you get, you're gonna need more storage.
Yeah.
So this is not for the faint of heart. These cameras are going to take a lot of storage. These cameras are going to take a lot of not even so much processing power. When you get them on the timeline, they cut like butter and unless you start putting a whole lot of Fusion graphics or you know, Premiere graphics, they're easy. The Kodak is really easy to use on both. I'm going to say the Red is better as far as the Kodak go, as far as the smooth, but yeah, for sure.
It's definitely optimized in DaVinci to use. So if you're using DaVinci, you won't have any problem, you know, cutting through the Red footage.
I've had, and I know I'm not trying to make this video controversial or whatever, but I know some people like pro grade cards. I ain't a person that, when I first seen the A7S III and they said that you need to go to the V90 cards, I was like, okay, bet. Pro grade was the first ones that came out. I got me a pro grade. They may have gotten better since then, so don't be trying to hack me up in the comments. But I've had 2 of the pro grade cards and they both have crashed on me. One of them, I took the forward camera to try to get recovered and I still can't get it recovered. It's sitting in my drawer. So I went with Velocity V90 cards. I've never had an issue with the Velocity V90 cards. I'm actually using it right now. The Sony Tough cards are bulletproof as well. How are the CF Express cards?
So they're pretty expensive, but I haven't had any issue with usability on the red branded ones, which is I think Angel Bird or Angel Fire or something like that. So a 512 gigabyte card will get me about an hour of 24 frame footage in LQ mode. But for the build quality, I think that the CFast 2.0 is the way to go, and I'm glad they actually put one in the red. I was hoping for 2 cards for backup, but I never go over 512 before I switch out another card anyway.
So when we talk about frame rates in both of these cameras, when I first got the red camera and I started using it, he has it in 6K at the low quality mode. It had 23.978 and then it had 45,
47.95,
and then 50.
Yeah, and then
that's all that was in that one.
So yeah, so in 6K 17:9 you have 23.98 and 47.95, and when you go to 16:9, then you get 50. But you can't get 60 frames in the Komodo until you get into 4K. Unfortunately, it does crop in on the sensor.
Okay. What about 120? Y'all got 120?
We have 120 in 2K, but again, that crops in on the sensor.
Okay, so for the FX6, I'm all the way in 4K, and I have 23, 29, I have 60, and then if I wanted to use, I believe, 120, you got to go into S&Q mode. I hardly ever shoot 120. I have all of mine set for like 23, 29, so I can get to it very easy.
Yeah, and there's a few more frame rates in the Komodo when you switch resolution, but I don't use it.
So who are these cameras for? Well, whoever got the money.
Yeah.
Because hey, you finna shuck out $6,000 plus you finna shuck out a lot more. So with everything I have set up on mine, my FX6 has a Atomos. It has a nice rig to make sure I don't put the Atomos onto the hot shoe. I have a quick release Zhiyun thanks to Stevie. I also have a Rode NTG2 on there and the tilter cage with the V-mount battery plate. I didn't get the Go, I got the V-mount. So all that right now was roughly almost close to $9 grand if we're talking about the lens, depending on what lens you have on there. And then for yours?
So I spent about $11,000.
Okay.
10.5 maybe, 11,000 on the high end. So I have the sidearm. I have the Komodo side handle with the record button. I have the I have 4 red BP 955 batteries. I also have the Core XXW V-mount adapter. Then I have 2 Core SWX Neo batteries. Then I have 3 CFast cards, 2 512, 1 256. I have the port keys monitor on top. The SDI cable is actually pretty expensive, it's like 30 bucks for the SDI cable. I have the Deity D3 Pro on there with the small rig hot shoe or cold shoe. I have the, I know it's a lot of stuff, right?
Golly,
yeah. So
why you at 11?
Yeah, so the list just goes on, and anything you buy from Red itself, the Red branded stuff, is a little bit more expensive. Like I said, that handle was almost $500 just to be able to hit record. So
wow.
Yeah, know what you're getting into before you buy it. It's a long-term investment.
Oh yeah, so practicality, FX6 is probably going to cost you a lot cheaper to get you started with, and it still has great quality. Like I said, both of them, you won't be able to tell the difference. So if you were trying to save a little money, the FX6 is not bad. I still love the image quality of the Red. The Kodaks are nice. But so these cameras are for somebody who actually can afford them and want to invest in their future. So no matter what brand you go with, I always say this to anybody that are getting cameras. Cameras are just a tool, right? If you don't know how to use that tool, it's just a camera. I know people that got high-end cameras like these and are shooting them in 8-bit, or you know, they just get them and they just shoot with them. I'm like, why? You got these cameras because they have so much more potential than you're using them for. You just got it because you want it to look professional. So if that is the case, then however you do it, it's your money. You can do whatever you want to do. I know people always, hey, you shouldn't spend your money on that. I don't care what you spend your money on. If you want to go get a stripper, you can spend your money on a stripper. But all I'm saying is you use what you need to, you use your money how you want to use it. If this is going to help your workflow better, then that's what you should definitely do.
And I'm gonna just say this before we get up out of here. There is nothing that you can't do with the Komodo that you can do with the FX6 and vice versa. Both cameras are capable of running on a gimbal.
Yep.
You got a big gimbal big enough. Both of them, if you rig them up right, they're good for running gun. They're good for documentary. The red, you know, you'll have to take another step because you're doing external audio, so you'll probably have to have an audio person. But there's nothing that you can't do with these cameras. So as far as I'm concerned, I think both cameras get a 10. Depending on your style of shooting, it's going to determine which one you get. There is no clear advantage on getting either of the cameras.
Yeah, and I know we got Sony fans, we got Red fans, we got all these people that's, you know, against all these other cameras. I'm gonna tell y'all something like this. Get the camera that works for you, like I said earlier. If it works for you, let it work for you. Don't let anybody discourage you from getting another kind of brand. Whatever brand you want to stay with, all these cameras are getting so good. In a couple of years, shoot these smaller cameras, the phones are getting good.
Yeah.
So again, we're going to close this out, and if you like these type of videos, let us know in the comments below so we can make more, so I can come over here with Stevie and we can do more stuff in the studio to bring y'all more stuff if you like this type of thing. Yeah. Definitely hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you don't never miss a video from us. And we want to give a special thanks to Lonnie Strickland for being behind the camera today. His link will be in the description below. And Stevie for allowing us to come in the studio. Again, if you are in the Arlington area and you can book your studio, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can book your studio. You can come here and shoot photos. You can come here and shoot interviews, whatever you need to do. I don't know what his price rate. You just need to DM him. Hey, and happy 2023. Happy shooting. Stop being so hung up on what everybody else have and just go and shoot.
Go shoot. That's the message.
That's the message,
Go
man.
shoot.
Just go shoot, man. Stop having all that bitter stuff. We ain't gonna get into that. But we're gonna see y'all in our next video. Peace.
Peace.